like this says, this is writing rhetorical analysis paragraphs for the short of attention span. I will clarify it is not for the easily distracted, though, because I'm outside and my dog is being annoying, and I'm sitting next to my son, and there are chickens nearby and a lot of street noise. So that might distract you, but I'm going to try to move fast here and give you a quick review of writing rhetorical analysis paragraphs. Our toolbox so far for writing rhetorical analysis, I have it broken down into these three sections. When you talk about the author, you want to be using power verbs, because what you're ultimately doing is you're saying, here's what the author is doing. When you talk about the what, or when you're fleshing out the what in your paragraph, that's primarily going to be evidence, quotes, paraphrases, contextual information, only that if it's absolutely necessary, the contextual information, but it's the evidence that fits in the box of your what, the label that you gave your box. And then finally, you have to do the actual analysis piece. And like Mr. Rhodes and I have been talking about, what we're trying to focus on is the fact that you can really use descriptive language as the bulk of your analysis. And what that means is that you're sort of describing what it is about your evidence, in quotes, that helps to support the why in your claim. And the reason I say connotation and allusion is that a lot of what is happening in your evidence is that there are things that are being implied, that your job is to describe what is being implied, and that's analysis. And same thing with allusion. The author might have made some sort of allusion, and your job is to uncover that allusion and describe what about that allusion is helping the author. So let's just take a quick look at a claim that a student, and remember, everything we're going to look at right here is written by student authors in 40 minutes, and in fact they're writing 3 essays that morning that total to about 135 minutes. So they're rushing, but anyway, so this student wrote, Adams encourages her son to be diligent by appealing to his affection for her and flattering him in the first half of the letter. So this student, this student has a what and a why, kind of, but what I want to pay attention to first is the part I said about power verbs, is using verbs to show what the author is doing. This student author has already, in her claim, or his claim, used encourage, appeal, and flatter. So already a bunch of strong power verbs to describe what Adams is doing, and in fact, the use of those power verbs is analysis, because the student author is sort of inserting their kind of they're having to make a judgment. The student author had to make a judgment about what Adams is doing by using a word to label that, and in so doing, the student author is analyzing. And this student author continues by using the word establish, does not intend, scold, guide, and appeal, all in these 7 or 8 lines. So you can see that these power verbs can do some seriously heavy lifting in your analysis, and you shouldn't you should take that seriously when you're writing, at least in your second draft. And you can see that this same student author continues by using the words compliment, qualify, assert, encourage, assure, flatter, emphasize. And the truth is that I've got to imagine that most of you know almost all of these words. They're not particularly academic vocabulary. They're words that you already have at your disposal. It's not about how fancy the word is. It's about how accurate the word is in describing what the author is in fact doing. Here's a new claim. And I chose this particular passage because it deals with this particular prompt is a little bit more like what you might be doing with the Margaret Atwood Handmaid's Tale prompt. But this claim is we have a what, which is devices of abstract and concrete imagery. Louvre uses devices of abstract and concrete imagery, and we have a why to advance his claim of the separation of man and nature. So, you know, as I told you before, if I were grading this, now I'm locked in. I'm going to say, okay, this student essentially just promised me that she was going to give me examples of abstract and concrete imagery, and that she was going to show me how that advances the author's claim of the separation of man and nature. So, the way in which the student is going, I said the student's going to provide me examples of abstract and concrete imagery. Well, let's see. The things underlined are the examples: fog glass, telephone poles, trekking by, or something like that, country, cows and horses. So you can see short quotes, two words, 5 words, 3, 4 words. It's not these sort of sentence or 2-sentence long quotes. It's these little bits and sound bites. Now let's look at the same student's descriptive language. The way that the student then talks about the quotes in order to develop the why of her claim, or his claim. Familiar, deeply familiar, emotional connection, nostalgic remembrance, reader's own childhood, sense of wistful loss. And then at the end, brings the issue home on a personal level to anyone who has ever gazed out a car window as a child. This is all in the realm of descriptive language. You can see it's not all adjectives. It's just the student. It's almost using describe in more of kind of a layperson's definition of describe, and that it's just a student kind of like I said, tour guiding you, color commentating about the evidence. Let's look at. So, and then I wanted to just leave you with this final example where it kind of pulls it all together. So you see at the very top, not the very, very top, but where it says Thatcher on the first line, this is a different prompt. It says, Thatcher establishes incredible diction in her piece to illustrate how Reagan's personality had a large part to something with decreasing the Red Scare tension that was ravaging the country. So this student author in lines 1 and 2 has their what, incredible diction, not the best what in the world, but hey, they observed, at least they labeled a rhetorical strategy, and they gave it some kind of descriptor, incredible. And then they tell us why Thatcher did it, to illustrate blah 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 about Reagan's personality. We go on to line 5 or so. Pursuing with, quote, lightness of spirit, I can't read that word, something with lightness of spirit, short quote, 3 words, Reagan had the ability to, quote, embody another great cause, 4 words. And then we have descriptive language from the student author about Thatcher, to give off the perception that the leader of this free nation wasn't afraid to take on the challenge of defeating the, quote, heart of the evil empire. So the student author is talking about the quotes that they provided here and saying that this shows that Reagan wasn't afraid to take on a challenge. That's descriptive language. And then it goes on those last 2 lines. Thatcher's diction establishes that Reagan was always optimistic and confident of his ability. Optimistic and confident of his ability is also descriptive language that is used to talk about what it is the student author wants you to see in the quotation.